son becomes the father the son. This is all I can send you, Kal-El. It's not who I am underneath that defines me, but what I do. You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. Just because someone stumbles and loses their path doesn't mean they're lost forever. You're making me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. I let my father die because I trusted him. Because he was convinced that I had to wait. That the world was not ready. What do you think? With great power comes great responsibility. We are Groot.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to another PlungeCast. And this is a special one because this is to do with getting invaded by Rising Sun Comics, my publisher, and all the books that they're publishing for studios, for non-profit, and for in-house print runs, etc. So you're able to get to them through risingsuncomics.com and also buy their comics through Rising Sun Publishing. This is across here. I'll just share the link for the website, and you'll be able to get through and see them there. Hey, Nugget, how you doing, bud? Thank you for joining us. All right. I could say you're a Midwesterner there, but there we go. Thank you. All right. I want to introduce you guys to Joe Belichick. Belichick.
Oh, Belichick, you did really good. Better than most.
I had the first one right.
Thanks, buddy.
And yeah, so he's from Florida, and the time there now is like 8 p.m., which always throws me off because, like in New Zealand, no matter where you are, north or south, like Engat just said, I'm a northerner. And, you know, he's in like the middle of New Zealand, with bottom of the top island, and it's still the same time. Right?
All right. It's always the right time to talk about comics.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, Joe, and we'll go take it away from there.
Oh, I've been a illustrator and a comic book artist for ages. I just work out of the house. It's my own studio. We end up soliciting different people, pick up our stuff. And in the case of this, it was a writer, and I was just doing some interior illustrations for his book, and it just progressed into a comic book form. He was interested in what was going on there, so we got started, and yeah, and there you go. I ended up meeting Hawk for Rising Sun's comics in a artist writers group, actually, that he started for a while, and he asked if I had any other material that maybe I could show him as a publisher that he would be interested in, and we dusted off Alexa Ruthless, and now we're talking to you.
Awesome. Yeah, I so you're the artist, right, on this book?
Yes.
And I have to say I love the artwork.
Thanks,
I really do. That was the first thing when I looked on the on the website, and we were talking about this during the our Incredible Kickstarter last month, right? And or was it July? No, yeah, it was in July. So
Yeah.
when I looked at it, I was like, okay, this is really cool. I'm really enjoying the artwork, and because I mean, comic book is a visual medium, right? And everybody understands that, but some people don't. And so when they don't understand that, it's it kind of like you kind of miss the point when it comes to comic books. So when I was looking at, if I can keep it here. Right. So when I was looking at these pages, I mean, like with the covers, I was thinking, I really want to look at these books. I want to see what's going on. I want to talk to the people behind it because
well, thanks.
I love the artwork.
That means we did good covers. So that's
Yeah.
absolutely it. We want to get you into the inside from there, and and it definitely set the mood for the book. It's true
Mm.
to the art inside the book, which I
Yeah.
personally always kind of like that. I like you to have the inside be what you're looking on the outside.
Right.
Not that I mind looking at beautiful cover art and somebody else's impression, but I always like
Yeah.
to open the book and have it there.
Yeah. I mean, that was really the first thing I saw about it. I was like, okay, well, why aren't we talking about this, right? Why don't we get these, these guys on here, and we can talk about what's going on and find out, what else, how these books came about. Let me just grab another. There we go. There she is. Oh, that one. So let's have a look at this one. So we'll go through the covers, and because that's my first entry into the book. So,
Sure.
I was looking at this, I was thinking, this is really, really well set up. One of the things I know, sometimes, first time books or whatever, like people aren't putting that much effort on the cover. And I've
Yeah.
noticed that quite a while. And I'm thinking, why don't, like, you've worked so hard on the interior. Why don't you work as hard for the cover? Because that's the thing everybody sees, like you said, it's the first thing people see.
Sure.
And, when you were talking about like how, like, people, making sure that what's inside is on the outside as well. Like in the 90s and stuff like that, people, you'd get like guest variant artists and stuff, and you wouldn't know it was variant artists. It would just slap a cover on there, and inside will be a different thing. Whereas now you go, okay, variant art, cover number B, D, C, E, F, whatever, But before you didn't know, and you looked at it and you went, wait, that's different to what it was on the cover,
Yeah.
But me, as a kid, I'm my teens, I was like, whatever, I'm just reading the inside anyway. But it wasn't until later people go, well, yeah, they never told you who was doing the artwork. And sometimes they didn't even note it. If I remember right, they didn't even note that this is somebody else's artwork.
Oh yeah, or it'd be hidden on the first page inside or something. It's
Yeah,
and I think that's just a personal preference as far as that goes. I think a lot when we get more into the indie books and you're doing your own work across most of the platforms. So I think that's part of the charm of it too. When you're stuck in all over the book, it really carries the right mood altogether and puts it together. I always like, even when I'm reading comics, because I love comics. I read comics too, and I like it when I get through the comic and I turn the last page, I wrap it all up, and I turn it back over and I look at that cover after I finished. And what does that cover mean to me now that I'm invested in the story? Is it a different thing? And I mean, I think the Alexa and Ruthless things were all definitely, especially the first two covers, were setting it up to have the relationship of the two characters there, and to give you a mood of the book. Everything's kind of on top of each other. It's all a little dirty and crowded, and it seems like you can't really get away from that, even though she's a pinup, she's in a pinup mode for the first couple things. And then when you get inside the book, it's a violent book inside. I mean, it's not for little kids necessarily or at all, but on the outside, if that's on the shelf, it's intriguing. You get to see the characters and their relationship a little bit more than all that goes on inside the book too. So, I mean, I like both the first covers quite a bit. I'm happy with them across the board, and I think it definitely gets the two characters right in their relationship, and then attitude, of what's going to happen inside.
Now, there's a question there from Nugget, and he's asking, like, is it fully digital or is it a combination of analog and digital?
It's all digital. It's all Photoshop. And on separate layers and things. Of course, I have my old classic sketchbooks around the house, and they're full of the doodles of the characters, especially the cat. I mean, I had to do some cat work, before I got in there, and then you turn it into a cartoon and an animated animal on top of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, a couple extra legs, it changes things a little bit, and definitely had to kick some rust off to get that character going, and then how to figure out to put a big mechanical helmet on it and things of that nature. It required some of the old sketchbook, and it's always nice to see it penciled out and everything
Yeah.
too. But yeah, Photoshop, it lets you work real fast, and
Yeah.
and
But by Photoshop, you mean like basically sketching it on the actual pad, like,
yeah,
right?
I use my
Yeah, a lot of it.
Wacom tablet. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm
so a
drawing
lot
with
of
my
people are probably
Wacom
thinking like
tablet.
when you mention Photoshop, they think, oh, it's all, it's like sort of AI generated or
Oh
something.
no,
No,
it's all
this is
hand
you actually.
drawn. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just using that as my medium as opposed to inking and
yeah,
pencil. It's it's a lot less expensive. I
that's
mean,
it.
after
That
it says all and done, I
yeah,
love comic art, and I own
yeah,
comic art. I love having it, and but to go through the extra cost to the printer of scanning and everything, and not to get into digital aspects, but your color and how that's going to come out and how true
yeah,
that's going to work. I pretty much have I have a strong graphic design foundation, and
mm, mm,
so I know what it's going to look like when it's printed, which is kind of reassuring,
mm,
to look at your pages side by side and know when the reader opens that book, that's what they're going to see. So it's nice in that regard. I will tell you, it's kind of it's kind of sad that you don't have that beautiful black and white, page of art there.
yeah,
But it's, I guess that's a trade-off, a trade-off to the medium, and
yeah,
certainly it lets you do it all out of your home studio, which is,
mm,
that's a tremendous boon for any creator to be able to do it in that place of comfort and
yeah,
cost.
right. Yeah, I mean, I've got a Wacom as well, and I use Clip Studio Paint to do all my digital design work, my
Yeah,
my putting it all together, basically layering it and everything, and makes
sure.
life so much easier as well. Because like the one thing digital provides for us, especially if you're using something like Photoshop or Clip Studio Paint, is that there's layers, right? So you can go back 50 layers of
Absolutely.
things if you made an error, and you think about how much erasing you got to
Oh yeah.
do,
Yeah.
and the time that is consumed by just fixing up errors, where you can just go back, okay, at that place it was fine, okay, I'll use that one, and then I'll save it, and I'll go use that one, and you can save that file that has the error, or that might seem like an error or an accident, and then you can go back to it later. Now
Yeah.
if you do that on paper, it's gone, right? If you
Yeah.
erase it on paper, it's gone, and you can go, oh man, I wish I had kept that, and no, it's
I
not there
know.
anymore.
Sometimes you're not in the mood, and you're just
Yeah,
there and you worked on it, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
it's okay. Yeah, you're absolutely
yeah,
right. In
yeah.
the old days of paper, because I did plenty of work on paper and
Mhm.
traditionally, and I mean, oh, in a fit of creative anger, you crumple up your paper.
Well,
You know?
well, I mean, talk about a bit of anger, right? Like I'm a ceramic artist, right,
Yeah,
as well. So I do sculptures and stuff.
yeah,
I had a falling out with a girl that I liked, right? I was away at work,
sure.
and I came and like, you know, basically came home, and I went, I grabbed all my ceramic sculptures and stuff like that. I just kept smashing them against a brick, and I'm talking about 30, 40 pieces of artwork, right?
Yeah.
Just like about this big, and I'm just, even stuff that I collected, I was just smashing it. Now, if that was digital, you know, maybe the only
Yeah.
failure I have when it comes to digital is if I haven't saved it somewhere and I'm working on it at that point. And I've had that happen to me one time, a couple of times,
Yeah.
when I've written something and the computer's failed, crashed on me,
Sure.
or I dropped a PDA, right? Like, in the old days, you had to like a little Canon PDAs, which like you had like which was basically this, but without the
Yeah.
internet. And so you connected to your phone, and there was the internet. And so I'm sitting there at the doctor's, and I'm writing this really great pay it forward sci-fi. I'm up to about probably 10, 15 pages, and I drop it accidentally. I get up, and it
Yeah.
drops,
Yeah.
and that's it. But
I know.
and then so I still haven't written it again, and I just feel like that's one of the things I can't touch because there was that mood, like you're talking about the mood and stuff like that.
Sure.
that emotional, writing. Gosh, what is it like?
Yeah,
Moment that you have,
you were
right?
in your
Creative
train of
moment.
thought. You were in the
That's
spur of
it.
the moment. It
Yeah,
was all beautiful and
yeah.
effortless and perfect. And
And,
that's
and
how you got why you got so upset. And you remember, you
yeah,
remember it
and
happened
it's never
once.
going away. It's like no, no. And
Yeah.
then earlier this year, I lost about something like about 20 pages, and I'm like, I got angry, and I haven't written it yet. That was it. Okay, I'm not,
Yeah,
and this,
there it just
yeah,
shows you every medium has its faults. I mean, you're never going to get away from that. That's part of it.
yeah,
If it always came out perfect, if it was always effortless,
yeah,
I mean, you wouldn't have the pride in it that so many people do. I mean,
yeah,
it's like I remember when I finished my first, you know, comic book, when I finished it and it was done. And
yeah,
it was a long time ago for me, but I remember it still.
yeah,
And you were just really proud. I mean, you might look back at it, now and be like, oh
yeah.
my God. Well, it's a learning thing as well. It's endless. And we always we're looking at our own faults constantly.
Exactly.
That's what makes you
Yeah,
better, is
yeah.
to be staring at your mistakes and hating them, and be
Well,
like, oh,
I think that's something that, like, we just mentioned a bit about AI, and I'm just going to grab Nugget's question, comment here. I highly recommend setting up the cloud. The problem is, like, that's something I need to do, the automatic part. But I'm
sure.
working on so many different projects, right? I mean, all of us are, right? We're always not just on the one thing. And so when you work on different projects, you forget to do that. And, you're just going from one to the other. And in that moment when you forget and something goes wrong,
Yeah.
that's when it happens. It's not when you're like already set up and everything. It's that, the accident moment when you don't expect anything to go
Yeah,
wrong.
you're not working in that safe spot, and
Yeah.
yeah, because it hits you while you're away from that safe spot. He's absolutely right, though. You got to do everything that you can to protect yourself from yourself, and autosave for me is a thing too. I mean, I don't have, I can't see my control S for my save keys anymore. It's been worn
Yeah.
away, so just because I've instinctively I've lost, you lose 15 minutes of work once and you tend not to lose it again, but
Yeah.
it's happened to me. It's happened to me on digital pages. You're caught up in it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't have my auto save set, and I got a half hour in because I was loving
Yeah.
what was going on, and
Yeah.
then while down in Florida, we have pop up thunder lightning storms. I mean, frequently,
Yeah.
a lot, and it just caught one. One came blowing in, and that was it. The internet
Yeah.
was out, power was down, and there was that 20 minutes of probably the best work I ever did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at
That's
least
that's that's the one
that's
that,
how you
like, it's
remember it.
those
Yeah,
ones that you lose, right? It's not the
yeah,
crap that
yeah.
you write that you lose. It's those full on energetic spurts of creativity that you lose.
Sure.
It's not like the rubbish that you can edit later. It's like that, I was writing one, gosh, I can't remember the name of it because it's but like, you know, it was just brilliant. I'd done, like, created the whole universe, 20 pages of this background story that was leading into the flashback. It was going to be, amazing, right? Seriously, created religion, created all the stuff, and boom,
Yeah.
the friggin' app, software crashes. And I'm like, where is it? What just happened? I'm sure it's saved somewhere. And it wasn't. Like,
Yeah,
even like I'm sure it's
you're
saved
just kind
somewhere.
of
It wasn't
stunned
saved
for a
somewhere.
second.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, no, I need to, like, walk away from that, and I'll go work on something
Yeah.
else. And which is what I've been doing, is like just slowly working on other projects so that maybe, I'll get that creativity back for that story, and then I'll go back and do it. Otherwise, I feel like I'm pulling teeth. And I think this is something that, like, I want to talk about AI here. It's like people, especially like when they look at digital art, they go, "Oh, it's too good."
Hmm.
This cannot be, someone there actually working with a stylus on a pad, and like myself, Wacom, right, and yourself as well,
Yeah.
and working with, on the computer, but they go, "Oh no, that's because they can just jimmy it all up themselves. There's no human connection." But this is difference. Like, this is difference between AI and what you're doing and what I'm doing, which is we actually get a freaking stylus, right?
Yeah.
and we chuck it onto onto a screen. If you're really rich, you have one of those ones that actually go directly onto there, right? I don't. So you're on a tablet and you're drawing away, and then somebody goes, you know what? That's too good. It looks too perfect, but they don't realize that you've spent decades learning that skill. You've come from paper. You've come maybe sometimes come from paint, right? Painting,
absolutely,
as I have and stuff. And then you're like, okay, now you're like, okay, well, this is getting a bit costly. Canvas, paint, pencils, sketch, inks, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Paper, and you got to get the right size of paper. Whereas if you go into digital, it's like blow it up to this. Like I work at about 600 DPI, right, which is huge, right? Because I want whatever I do, when I slim it down, it looks just as good as if it was this big. And I think this is what, when we look at your artwork here, I'm looking at it, and I saw it last night. I was like, man, this interior work is great, and it's like just enjoying it. And this, like I said, when I first saw the book, I was like, why am I not talking about this? Why am I not talking about this, just this guy, to these people behind this book? Because I'm an artist as well, right? Like, but I don't do illustrations as much as I used to, right? But the thing is, I appreciate, it's something that sticks out to me straight away. I want to know more about it, and this book did. I looked at it, I went, all I saw was the cover art, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. But like somebody will go, oh, you know what? It looks digital, so maybe it's just done by AI. But like when you really go in,
it's there. You can see. I mean, it's intentionally left that way too. I mean, the book is very much designed to stay dirty and tactile.
And
I mean, it's not
beautiful, right?
Oh, well,
I mean, that's what I love about it. It's that whole tactileness of it, and that dirtiness, and just the way the colors work. And I can tell that you come from an artistic background, right? Not from someone just picked it up.
Well, you were talking about it earlier, and I painted in acrylics. I did 2 graphic novels in acrylics.
Right.
And this is basically the same layering technique as I do in acrylics.
Yeah.
It's just in Photoshop, and I'll grab different brushes, but I'll tell you, more often than not, I just run through with 1 or 2 brushes, and it's just layered up on top, just like acrylics. The same basic technique I used when I was, painting with the brush. So, when you zoom on in, and it's all there. I mean, that's scribble. I mean, it's intentionally there. I mean, that's
and that's the beauty of this work, right?
Yeah, that's my undersketch work and everything, and but it also fit the book too. So you're looking at
that's what I want to get to, because, like, I mean, we talk about the artwork, and I still want to carry on talking about the artwork.
Sure.
But when you really look at this work, I mean, like, if you're not drawn in by the artwork just to pick up the damn book, I don't know what's wrong with you. Seriously.
It's very kind, and we work very hard at trying to get it there. But I mean, even if you look at the leg, I mean, you can imagine that's an acrylic paint.
Yeah.
I mean, it's put on the same way, the same blending up to a highlight or a dark tone. So art-wise, it's very, very similar. And but you do have that Control S and that save and that all those wonderful tools that Photoshop will get to you. But technique wise, a lot of it's always there. Yeah,
I mean, like, even the background, it's dirty, it's it's layered, and it just feels so. I'm gonna get to the interior pages in a minute, but I mean, like we're talking about covers here, and like, I like I mentioned earlier, I feel like indie comics guys especially lose it on the cover work.
Yeah.
But a lot of these the recent ones that I've had come on my show here, and we talk about the other comics, they are really masters of the art form, right? They really understand, like yourself, right? Because if you're a fan of comics, your first attempt is going to be a bit, static, and you kind of think, oh, I'll try this, I'll try that, maybe, and you're just coming new to it.
Sure.
But if it's your second book or third book, you should be a master of it, because you've learned in that period between the first and the second one, if you're willing, right? A lot of time people aren't willing to learn, and understand from other, especially for other people. They don't want to listen to other people. And I've been like that as a teenager, right? I wish I'd listened to so many of my dad's advice, right? He's 80 now, and I wish I'd listened to him when I was a kid. But like, you get that sort of rebellious period. You're like, I am doing a comic. It's my comic. It's my thing. I know how to do it. Don't tell me how to do my thing. But then when you get to the second one, you were like, damn, I wish I'd listened.
Sure. Sure. And I mean, you don't know till you know, and and it's really different to be at home making something and then putting something out there. It changes what it is. It changes what you did and what it is. And you get to talk to people and you get feedback, and that affects things. And generally it makes you want to do a better job. I think it's really important that you're talking to other artists and working with other artists. That was a big thing about doing the convention circuit, and being on the road and meeting piles of other creators, from all different places and what they do. That was, the endless question. So who's your influence? I'm like, all day, every day is my influence, whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm going. And, but to fill your world with that while you're doing the work too. And, it's both motivating and you just, I mean, for me, I had the opportunity to sit next to childhood heroes, in booths and things and everything else. And boy, nothing will put a fire under you like not wanting to be embarrassed, and not and to bring your game to the show, than to be with those people. And most of them are just gracious creators, almost all of them. I have almost no bad stories to tell about other creators that I've talked with, or I think we all got that inside. It's that kid thing that makes us excited to talk to each other, and you're always learning stuff, always doing stuff. Absolutely.
Because you're fans of the medium that you're working on, and I think you don't want to lose that. And I think sometimes you even like being at conventions can become a chore. And like, so if you miss out one or two, you go, oh man, I wish I was at that. And then you go back and you're like, yay, you're ready to talk to people and you're excited about being there.
Right.
And, and like you said, meeting your heroes. And because comic fans, even as comic writers or creatives, we still have other people that we're fans of.
Sure.
And I think that sort of like, when it's that sort of like, okay, who's your favorite? Which art did you like? And that sort of moment that you have and stuff. I mean, I remember, and these are things that stick out of my head, right? I got to talk to Greg Rucka and asked him a film question, right? Adaptation question about Whiteout when he was doing, where he had done Whiteout, and I read it and I enjoyed it. But then they had a Whiteout was filmed in New Zealand, Auckland, right? Which is the one set in Antarctica with, oh gosh, who's in Whiteout? Let me just grab that. And I just said to him, hey, what do you think about adaptations? He said, listen, not in that tone, but he just said, look, the movie's the movie, the comic's the comic.
Sure.
I do the comic, and the comic's always going to be there, kind of thing. And I'm paraphrasing here. So, my understanding. So what me taking away from what he said, and so Kate Beckinsale, right? So he was in this. I mean, not that he was in it, but he wrote the book, the graphic novel Whiteout, and so he's talking, this it became a movie, and so. And it was filmed in New Zealand, which is amazing. Like, I don't know what's filmed in New Zealand. I love the book, and I love the book, and I love his writing, and I love the movie. And I'm like, it's even better because it was filmed in New Zealand. Because being a Kiwi, it's like, yay, they're making more movies in New Zealand.
Hometown heroes.
Yeah, and it's like, it was just great. I mean, you had like Kate Beckinsale, Gabriel Mark, and Dominic Sona. What's his name there? Senna. So the story is that U.S. Marshal Kerry Statko attracts a killer in Antarctica as the sun is about to set for 6 months. Right. It's just such a, beautiful, like, you look at some of the art, you get that straight out of the book,
Yeah.
right? That panel is a straight out of book. You know,
Well,
you cannot go wrong from that.
it is the sequential art is, it's a storyboarding,
Right.
we make it very stylized, and it's push it a
Yeah.
lot farther than just simpler storyboard renderings do. I do a lot of
Yeah.
animation work too, so it's
Right.
I mean, it's a part of it, and it's fun to watch it grow and change and move. It's the mediums are tremendously different when you get to it. There's things you can do in comics that are just staggeringly difficult to do in film. What you got your CGI now and everything, so that changes it. But in the old days, it's very difficult to get a film crew out there to make it look like a comic book and to do things. But they moved along pretty well with it, and yeah, it's great. We've seen just piles and piles of things in comics in the last 20 years. It's changed. It's almost to the point that you look at the comic book world, and it's the opening market. It's like the shopping center for for the movie industry or animation industry too. So I think that's really cool. I think a lot of that happened because of the popularity of comics.
Right.
There was a huge explosion, between even back in the old days, you'd go to a convention and it would be in the basement of a hotel, and, all the guys would be lined up with their white boxes, and there'd be a couple guys that did stuff to you were there with, the movie houses pulling in their sets from the film adaptation, and giant 150,000 people in the convention centers and Madcap, which brought the whole industry, into that, and it changed. I was like, it's hard to walk into any movie nowadays and not have a comic influence out there somewhere, because it works that way. We're telling the story to begin with. So it's a good story. If you can get the mood together, there's a good mood there. And for bigger books, if they're lucky, and there's already a built-in audience for them at that point. So a lot of their footwork is already done. There's a fan base, and that's how that goes. It's so absolutely. It's storytelling by pictures and words put together in sequential order, and that's how we make stories make sense to us. So it translates well. It's fun to see it when it happens too. I mean, a lot of people will be like, "It's so different." I'm like, "Well, of course it is. Of course it is."
Yeah, and I think, I mean, like, for me, like, I enjoy, because as a fan of something, I want to see it represented as much as, like, at least 90% close to what it is in the book, because but I also understand that you can't do everything. I have a film background, so I understand that part of it as a writer as well as somebody behind the camera. But you at least have to be true to the spirit of the character of the story, and I think Whiteout did that. I think for me, Whiteout did that. That's why I enjoyed both the movie and the book and the graphic novel, I should say, because you want to have that. You want the things on the page to come to life, but you don't want to, like, take you away from that, because it's like, well, it's just a name only, brothers. At this end, what they should have just called it something else and not,
right. Yeah, right.
And so
I've seen some adaptions. Yeah, you feel that way. It's not even close, but it's hard. And then you have so many other people that are bringing their thoughts and ideas about that creation to their medium. For one, it's so that it just changes. It's like whispering down the line. By the time you get it all wrapped up, it's a very different thing. And how can you really get in the creative mind of the person that initially made it? It's very hard
by asking them about it.
Well, that would be a good start too. And then the formulas have to change, and they like specific formulas for a film. And there was a time when you couldn't have a movie that didn't have a happy ending. And you're like, but what about tragedy as a storytelling? That's a whole storytelling. Sometimes it doesn't end well for everybody,
Yeah, at that point you sort of go, oh, you know what, we should just rename this something else.
Yeah.
One of the things we talked about when I was at film school was like, especially when it comes to adaptation, it was like, hey, when you like, a lot of times the director and the studio doesn't want the creative person who came up with, whose book they're adapting to be there.
Sure.
And it's done on the purpose that maybe that person will be more hands-on and they won't want to have too much control over the medium and they want to do their own thing. But then at the end of the day, you're like, okay, there is a 50-50 give or take. And you go, okay, look, tell us what what would work here, what doesn't work. And then we'll come in, see what we can do, and then back and forth, right? Whereas they've been known that there have been creatives who've actually come in, who've actually give me one sec. I'm getting like everything all at once. That reminds me of that movie. Give me one sec. Sorry. Hi there. Oh, you laughing? Oh, you. Oh, sorry. I was just on a podcast. Thank you so much. Cheers. I was at an event, not this Sunday, the Sunday previous, and I forgot my Batman my Batman bag, my $2 Batman bag, and I was okay with losing it because it was only $2.
Well, there you go. Because price is right.
But my friends, so when if it's one of those ones, I don't mind losing it, and I put it down, and because I'd taken some bottles of cider over, and for the event, because it was my friend's graduation, and she's an airbrush artist, and and as well as a teacher, so she teaches kids with special needs as well as like without special needs and so on, and they're great people. And that was just her husband, who's actually a Johnny Cash singer, right?
Okay.
and he was just great with his guitar and everything. He performed on the night. It was just lovely. And you guys can actually watch my my interview with Julia and her daughter, who's also an artist, but she's a digital and a traditional artist together, whereas Julia is an airbrush traditionalist, right? So, I mean, she's working on like $200,000 cars kind of thing, airbrush work. And she's, I think it was a couple months ago, she was like the American Airbrush Artist of the Month.
Well, good for her.
And she's, she's local. Like I said, they just dropped it off.
I know.
And to be in contact with people like that in my community, right? To have such great artists. I can't like sort of like, be out here like.
Hey, there he is, the judge.
Yeah, I can't not be out here like promoting them because they're just such great people. Same with I'll show that later. But like out of one of my best friends, it's just I think the thing is, right, if you're in the comic business, you surround yourself with artists and writers and so on because it's a dirge, right? Like iron sharpens iron, right? You get artists together, they talk about art, and they go, okay, what about this? What about that? What about this? And it's just such a cool thing. So, like we're talking about going to conventions and stuff, having a creative people around you. We haven't talked about your background yet. So, tell us a bit about your background, Joe, because we talked, we sort of like,
as far as art, I went to high school that had an advanced art program. So I had finished up pretty much my college art by the time I was 18,
Right.
And it was great. I mean, this was before there were computers. So I date myself. I'm 55,
Yeah, well, I'm 50, so we're good.
Yeah, so that's back then, and I learned everything, starting back then, and from there I worked as mostly in textile work. I worked as a screen printer artist, doing I like doing a lot of rock posters, show posters, concert posters.
Awesome.
I always did comic books, always working in comic book stores. Did a lot of teaching in comic book stores. Worked as a graphic designer, did thousands upon thousands of T-shirts. Still do.
Yeah.
Still do that now. And, so I mix it up across that way. When computers came in, well, actually before that, I guess, when I was on the convention circuit, I did a book called The Adventures of Edgar Mudd. There were 2 graphic novels, and they were all hand painted. And we did that for about 7 years under Wet Earth Publishing, and had a lot of fun with that. Met tons and tons of people, and learned a lot about the comic industry, part of as far as the business end of it, a lot more than the creative end. You're always learning about the creative end. And talked to a lot of interesting people, talked to, some people about movie rights to things and things of that nature. And then that we finished that project. And, for a long time, I moved into other areas of art. I moved into animation work, doing music videos. And that takes a lot of time. Animation takes a lot of time. But I always did illustration work, did book cover work. And, and then I ended up doing a lot of little independent jobs, one-off comics, 4-off comics, crowd-funded comics. I did it was a 6-issue Kickstarter that was crowd-funded, which was Moby Back from the Deep, which was Moby Dick came back as the undead, and the ghost ship pursued that. So, and then, boy, lots of independent writers and collaborations and or work for hires, pushing out, again, those 1 to 4s. Always loved jumping on any anthology book. I always liked that when I was a kid, seeing, stories based around the same thing. And but 4 or 5 different artists, 4 or 5 different writers, working in the same book, which was always fun. Oh, well, there you go. There's the guys there.
Yeah.
And that's just some fast black and white stuff. A lot more like my storyboarding work would look, just a little bit cleaner. But and you can see, I mean, that's pretty really set up as a lot of storyboard look there. But occasionally you get some straight up, drawing out the sketchbook zombie fun and everything else.
That's what I was after.
And,
I was after comic, like the covers. So, this, you got this one, which is like Jaws, right? And
right,
it's like
sure.
A homage to Jaws, but it looks beautiful.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, and I do a lot of work with people of that ilk. I've done some game design and lots of game art. But yeah, you can see that's what I say. You can see the style build up there, even like compared to Alexa and Ruthless. They're the same hand strokes, Yeah. I mean, it's for somebody that does it, you could look at the work and see it's kind of still there. It's just a little more painterly, not having more of the traditional black and white work. But
I think for myself as an artist, like I look at that as a creative person, I should say, I look at that, I go, man, that's just gorgeous. It's like a painted image. Because that's your style, and I think that's even with your digital style, that just looks great. And it's. Yeah, I mean, like it's just because it's not, your traditional, let's say your, something like that, right?
Sure.
And it doesn't mean it's anything less, but it's actually, I think actually love it more.
No, and it's just not. I think the medium is. I think the coolest thing about it with the digital is the artist can bring up more of their own look because the time isn't so. Taken up by an assembly, or original comic art, it became out of it almost a necessary matter of how you had to create it so it would work commercially, so you could get it to the printer and it could resemble it. You had to have a team working so you could get it out in time. And so you get to do your own thing a lot more, and it can change depending on the project as well.
And that's the same with like, I mean, this, you know, what, like you said, with animation as well, because you've got a background in animation. And so like Angat himself here, you know, I'm sure if he's still watching that, you know, he's Nugget, sorry, is still, you know, he's from Wellington, he's a Kiwi, but he's also an animator
Yeah.
as well as a caricature artist. So, you know, there is that speedness that you need to do when it comes to animation. You know, you have the beautiful backgrounds and you know those, you know,
Sure.
somebody else is doing the backgrounds, but then the actual line work and stuff has to be done 24, was it like, you know, depending on what, you know, how, what
Right. You could depend.
what
I mean, like most of my stuff, I end up getting away on 12 frames a second. But yeah, I
right.
mean, 24 frames a second is standard. And yeah, it's nutty. That's a lot. That's
And
a
the
lot of
fact,
work.
you know, and you're doing all these changes to each image to make them animate,
Yeah.
and you can't have like this perfect, you know, to it. And that's why I've noticed that a lot of people now like, which kind of like for me personally, it's kind of like cheapens the art form of animation, where they, especially if you've like always, like if if the series has been like hand drawn, whatever,
Sure.
and suddenly you go to digital, it's jarring to like see the digital,
Yeah.
like not the CGI to what was traditional. And then you go, well, imagine those guys when they were doing traditional, they're doing such a great work, yet when it comes to digital, and this is shortcutness of it, that they don't put enough effort into it because it's just digital now. And I think you know, there is you kind of wish that people did more traditional because of that, so that you actually, I don't think, like, a lot of people don't mind if it takes longer, as long as it's good, you know. And
Yeah.
I think that's the thing about artwork, is like people don't mind paying good money if it's good.
Yeah,
And
you know, there's always going to be the want of traditional art. I think
yeah,
like a lot of things, it's you know they're still pressing vinyl records. You know, somebody
yeah,
wants that vinyl record. They want it to
yeah,
scratch. They want it to turn into their vinyl record. You know,
exactly.
so it's always out there. You got
Yeah, I
sign
mean, like,
painters still paint signs. You know.
well, I mean, like, the other thing is like, if you're, you know, if you're someone who's like you know, because look, talking about records, right? So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you're gonna have someone like me who's just like, I can buy an $18 CD, right?
Right.
I can do that anytime I want. And so, but I wanna be able to buy my favorite band's, right, album, right? I want
Yeah.
to be able to buy my favorite band's album,
Yeah. Sure.
because not because I have an album player,
Right.
right, or a record player, but because I want to have the album, right?
Yeah.
And and to be honest, this was my second option. My first option was a limited edition one,
Right.
which
Right.
came with a 7-inch, right, and a lithograph, but it had all sold out, and I almost missed out on this because I said, oh, that's not what I wanted, and then I realized, like, I better get this because then I won't even have that, you know. And that's like once in like about, I don't know, because I haven't been buying records, and because everything's gone MP3s, right? So you
Right.
don't. And I used to be a huge music collector, so it was like music and comics. That was my every weekly thing for about 3 years of my life when I was working as a factory worker at $6.50 an hour to $6.90 an hour as a
Nice.
teenager, right? And
Sure.
so every cent, you know, every dollar counted. So you went, comics was that important to me, and so was music. So side by side, there had to be enough balance between that. And as long as all of the bills were paid, that was me. And there are many people like me out there, you know,
Sure.
and especially now when we're in our 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, we're the ones who are spending all the big money on the specialized stuff. And you know, we're the ones out here. And I noticed when we did our Kickstarter, we had somebody pay $150, two people, right, just so they could be in our comic book
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
have all the covers, right, of our
Sure.
comic book. And I'm like, you know, you get blown away, because these are people like me who go, okay, I want that, and I'm willing to pay the money for that. And so, you know, and those are people that are getting left on the sideline by these changes and all that, by
Yeah.
what they're doing, you know, because we're the ones, like, physical media. is bought by people in our age group, right, in the middle age group, because
Sure.
we're not wasting away on, we've gotten past the whole immaturity thing as teenagers, which I don't doubt. I mean, I've been through a lot of immaturity and right up to my 25, 27, but you get after a while you just go, listen, I don't want to be spending on alcohol now, I don't want to be getting partying, I want something that's going to last. And so when you start going, okay, well, what I can do is buy art. I can buy, toys, whatever, that's like, at the high end, because then I can display that, I get joy out of it. Whereas like, we could just go drink, every other night, and that we gone and there'll be nothing left. And so this is the market that I think a lot of, mainstream is forgetting, that we're the ones out here that have the money, or, have enough money just, or to save up to buy the one thing that we want. And I think if you cater to that, which Indiegogo, a Kickstarter, and all these amazing, people are out here creating for, because they're not creating for, for the run of the mill, because crowdfunding is very specialized in the sense that a lot of normal people don't even know what that is, right?
Sure. Those normal people.
Yeah, we just expect normal people to, the Joe off the road know Kickstarter, but they don't. They really don't. It's 1 out of 10 might do, but for people like us who understand comics, know that there's these specialized short run books, maybe 30,000, 60,000, whatever, but still not cutting the 100,000 mark, right? But there is a limited series of stuff you can get that is going to be there, only available for a short period of time. And if you don't get in on it, it's like being at the gallery, right?
Right.
But at the gallery, it's just a one-off unless they do prints. And I'm always about prints. I'm like, when I go see artwork, I go, get that into a print, right?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to afford that print more often than not, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll rather buy a $25, poster than be able to spend $1,000 friggin', painting. And that way, that $1,000 can get made up by about 100 of those little posters, right? Or 50 of those posters. And that way you're double dipping, but you're actually satisfying your customer. And I think this is what is great about the crowdfunding thing when it comes to art and comics. It allows, it allows people to get what they want at the affordable price that they can pay for. And of course, it's going to be for freight and stuff. But you know what? You're going to get exactly what you want. You're not going to be like, get inside and go, oh, there's some, I didn't expect that to be that, because a lot of time, like we see with Moby Dick here, we know what it's going to look like inside before we even buy it. We know who's creating it. We know who the artwork is by. We know who the writer is, how it's going to look, and so we're able to, buy the extras, right?
Sure.
And sort of get those special covers and stuff like that, and really be out here, be able to really, get some amazing work, and and for collectors, something like Kickstarter, and for indie publishers, it's a really great market, because you're then able to, really connect with people. I think this is the great thing about indie comic scene, is that it's kind of almost propping up the mainstream,
right.
because people aren't buying the mainstream as much as they used to, so they're going elsewhere and they're supporting the indie creatives. And even my short journey that I've had this last couple of months with Kickstarter, right, I've learned so much about the creatives out here, because they're really good business people. Those ones who are succeeding, right? And those who aren't, they're not really good business people. That's my little spirit on that. But I want to look at Nugget's around. So this is Nugget. He's the one who's animator. So he's saying, I've experimented with using 8 frames a second, like anime often does. Yeah.
Sure. So once you get animating, you learn a lot of tricks. I mean, like anything, and there's different ways, and pick a favorite and look how
Yeah.
they do it, and then turn it into your thing, and all of a sudden you're doing your thing. But yeah, I mean, just like anything else, you learn by looking at everybody that influenced you to begin with. So yeah, 8 frames a second is that's good stuff. You definitely gotta know your tricks, and that's it too. Yeah, here's where we kind of flows away from not being for the kids anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like, this is the other thing. Like, people our age,
Yeah.
They want something a bit more mature. They want,
Sure.
we can read, X-Men and all that, but we don't always want to read X-Men and stuff like that.
Sure.
So you got to be able to, as a creative, do what you got to do, right? You want to tell the story that you want to tell. You don't want to be
like we're
restricted by
saying,
that.
you go to the movies, and I mean, the movies got it all now, so it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason for it to not be in the comic book there too, but it's but you get to see what Ruthless does. This is some thugs that were outside. There was a fight. Alexa makes some money doing mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
It's set in the future, not too far, but far enough. And her kind of her companion and self-defense is Ruthless. She's got a little mouse button that sets him off. It's in there in the writing, and he goes a little out of control. Sometimes ends up burning himself out quite a bit and needing some repair work after this sort of thing goes on. But yeah, so not always a friendly cat, but sometimes he is, and that's this is the first issue of the book. So much is setting up characters and trying to get an environment in, trying to let people know what to expect of people in the beginning. It's almost like a prelude to a series, where you're just got to get people into that world a little bit and let them see it. It continues with it's dirty.
Yeah.
It's I don't worry about getting really clean. That's actually one of my out of the whole first book, that little splurt of blood popping off of that guy makes me personally laugh, because I mean I have the sketch in my sketchbook of that happening in pencil, and I mean I haven't seen that particular picture till I gave it to you. It's been a little while, and I laughed. So I like those little tiny like you see, I don't frame a lot of my stuff in my book. It kind of runs into each other. That's purposeful too. It's kind of part of the environment. It's all on top of each other. Sometimes it's a little, you got to look around a little to see where to go, to see what's going on. I throw a lot of tiny stuff in the book here and there. You'll see I have handwritten scribble all over on the walls and things and stuff. A lot of it's the original script of the page that's left over, but just paint over stuff and setting the environment. It's a mix of, the future and what's left over of the past. And it's all kind of degraded. I mean, I can draw a straight line. I mean, when I need to, but it's left that way purposefully. So,
I mean, it's kind of like reminds me with what my what my friend's tutor, like we were talking about. I mean, I showed you this just by chance, that he just said, like, do you want to do photos or do you want to do art?
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And I think it comes down to, it's like, do you want to do exactly everything just like it's in a photo, or are you doing art, like, and so it's kind of like, for him, he said, like, that was the best thing I ever heard, was like, well, I'm not, and I'm paraphrasing here, right? That, the fact that he's doing art, he's being a creative person. He's not just taking a photo of something and putting it on the, on the page. And I think it's that natural just flow of things that makes art what it is. It's that, it's not like taking a picture and going, this is what it is. It's like whatever our interpretation and creativity, and we're trying to communicate with that.
Sure.
And it reminds me of a bit of like Felix the cat kind of thing. That sort of that sort of age, that sort of 70s animation, and just a fun comedy part thing. But also reminds me of like the Japanese animes where like you got all of this blood coming out from a cut, right?
Yeah,
And
just
black when you were
silly.
talking about
Yeah.
earlier. It's just great because it takes it's like having fun with something. It's like, okay, so there's a splat coming out, but like I mean the blood coming out there, but it also is like you also have to it kind of gives it that idea that yes, this is fantasy, right?
Yeah.
This is fiction. This is enjoyment. This is for the fun of it. This is not like, oh, the cats are gonna go be doing this now, kind of thing. You know how people go like,
Yeah,
oh,
I don't think any kid's going to be doing it.
Yeah.
It's okay, and it's over the top and supposed to be that way. Because I was having fun too.
Yeah.
I want to laugh at what I'm doing or enjoy what I'm doing or set the mood. And, you got that nice little paneling of Ruthless and he's, stamping around doing this stuff. And it's fun. And, and the scenery work, I love setting the environment,
really,
too, even if it's just, even
I was
if
looking
just,
at this and I was thinking like, okay, what is this car called? Is this a Dodge?
oh yeah, I think it is. It's right.
Yeah.
It's some old 70s. I loved just throwing piles of different decades together. It's sort of like if it works, they kept it, and then they just built it on top of each other, and it just kept going and going, and all these goofy little signs and everything in the back, and all that neon. I also kind of tried to stay away from making everything look like it was English,
right?
So it was kind of
like it's kind of feels like a bit like the Blade Runner thing, right? Because because you've got that opening scene, right? When he goes in, when he's walking down that it has that feel as well, right? The dirtiness of the the environment in the afternoon with because it's almost feels like there's no sun anymore.
Right.
And then he's going down and he's going through and they've got all this and it has that feel to it, aesthetic to it, and he's going to eat noodles and he's and they're speaking a different language and he's understanding it, and they're communicating. And I think that's a joy of what I like about this book, right? I mean, like I haven't read it. I'm just looking at the artwork, I'm looking at the covers, and it just draws me in. And you want that to happen, to something like this. Now, we haven't talked about the story, the actual characters and stuff, and we just jumped into Ruthless.
Sure.
But I just want to, before we go there, I just want to put up Nugget's question here. So he's asking, where can we see some of your animation?
I have, I'd have to, set it up. They're mostly for private people or small bands, 4 or 5 seconds. I actually have Facebook. It's Brave New Garage, BRAVE, New Garage. And it's got some of my work there. It's probably, and there's some animations. There's actually about a 25-second little promo clip of Alexa and Ruthless. There's a little Alexa and Ruthless animation there. And you can go check that out. And
spell that again. I'm trying to figure out.
Like, it's Brave, BRAVE, New, NEW, Garage. And that's a Facebook page. That's the name of the studio. That's my studio that I run out of.
Let me just put in this Brave New Garage. Because I tried to do a search and I couldn't get a search, so hopefully this will come up.
But that's got a bunch of assorted things there.
It's not giving me anything, but I'll get it off you later.
Sure.
So let's let's do the story itself.
Sure.
Because we're looking at the characters. I'll pop back up to the cover, and we'll go from the start. Now.
Yeah.
Here we go. So tell us about the story. So this is Alexa, right?
It's I mean, because you can see from the background, it's a science fiction thriller, I guess I would call it. It's you start out being introduced to the character, but you learn more about the environment, the people, what's going on, what the real conflict is in the story, more in issue 2 and then 3, and you realize that she's through a series of people that she meets and circumstances that come together, that she's going to get stuck in the big final conflict of what's happening to humanity as it degrades, and how they're going to stop the conflict that occurs. It's not traditional in the way that there's a bad guy. It turns out to be more difficult to understand why it's bad and what's happening to people, but you find out who the conflict is, and it's a bit of a surprise. The writer Bertrand is a microbiologist, by trade, and it gets very scientific in a lot of things about things that have gone wrong, and why they've gone wrong, and what's happening to the human race, and what its purposes has turned into on the planet, and it's not quite what they thought it was. And so it's all in the book. It's really hard to understand until you're in there without giving away the surprise of what the whole gist of the book is. And then you learn, and then this group of rebels, as it were, get together to try to, one, make everybody understand what's happening and what's wrong, and then two, to try to stop it. So I think the easiest way for me is it's a science fiction thriller. It's going to get you. You're going to be thrown into new scenarios pretty much every book. By 3, you're learning what the problem is and what the conflict is, and how the social structure and is being used against the people, and turning us into effectively like a cattle, just an existing mass, as opposed to individuality. And so to simplify the story, it's a sci-fi thriller. It's got all the classics in it. It's got the look, the sci-fi feel to it. It's the story does move around a little, and it does get specific into some explanation of some of that futuristic sci-fi stuff. This is pretty simple. This page is pretty simple it's just, that's an introduction to a character that's going to be more involved, but it's a coffee house in the future that she ends up at. And but you can see, even though it's a coffee house, there's weird hoses and nutty stuff, and it gets into there. Of course, I'm a fan of the tattoo, so I got the tattoo work on there too. But that's again, if I start showing a lot of the other interior pages, it can get into
spoilers, right? And you don't really want to spoil.
Yeah.
Hey, just want to shout out to JR. Thank you, JR, for jumping in, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, people hit this, smash the like button, and and share. But
look, I think
subscribe, right? Subscribe, because we're almost up to 100, and that's within naturally. One thing I want to share with you guys here. I'm not doing any sort of paid promotions on this thing, because I want to grow our this, because people want to watch it, and I want to do it naturally. I don't want to be pushing it to just paying somebody to promote the show. But I want people to enjoy and like our show for what it is, and by having great artists and creatives on here like Joe here. And one thing, coming back to this, this is it's almost like each panel needs panels like these, right, needs to be like a poster for whenever I look at some stuff, I go, this should be a poster, right? Because then you got to have it on your wall and stuff, because look at that, this beautiful trike. It is trike, isn't it? It's been a while since I've been on a bike, but and so just the way everything formulates here, it's the way it's structured and everything. Then you got this over here, you kind of hey Joe, do a really close up, more detailed work of this for a card,
Sure.
kind of thing. So that's what I like to do that with my artists. But I mean, give me more. But so you've got Alexa, who's the main character, and you've got Ruthless, who is the sidekick. Tell us a bit about Ruthless, and I'll just get him here.
He's a rescue animal that you end up. She has a friend that's does cybernetic work. So he got in trouble, needed patched up. So that's what it ended up becoming of her humanitarian efforts. So it's kind of it's his helmet does come off. You do see him, in just his form, but there's actually a farther down. There's a comic that's episode that's all from the cat's all from Ruthless perspective. So you find out how he was injured and what happened and everything else before she ends up getting a hold of him. But now they're just, like I said, they're good buddies, and she's kind of the protector of her as well,
Yeah. And of course, this book came out way before Guardians of the Galaxy 3, right? So people are going, oh, what? No.
Yeah.
Comic books take a bit of time, and we're up to issue 5 now, aren't we?
We've got stuff written. I know we've got 3 out now with Rising Sun, but it's definitely moved farther ahead beyond that in the Brave New Crotch, at least.
Yeah,
and
we'll
get that out.
3. Yeah. So I mean, like, I'm looking at issue 3's out already. So you can pick it up. Like, let me just share this just before we go on, since we're talking about that. You can grab these issues from Rising Comics Publishing Group, and I'll put up the. Let me get back. Where are we? Here we go. So there's a link for that page. But like, you can check them out. I think it's right at the top of the page, so you can actually see them. So it's up to issue 3, and so why I mentioned about the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is because it's got a similar story where you find out what's going on with gosh, now I forgot his name. Raccoon,
sure.
Gosh, Rocket, right? And it's got a similar sort of kind of storyline to it, but of course the comics book's been made, for a while, and nobody knew what was the story going to be about in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And but I mean, it endears you more to the story when, especially if you're a human being, with emotion, where where animals. And here's something that I even just yesterday saw on YouTube about a news item about cats in a prison where they allowed cats.
Yeah,
the prisoners to have cats. So if the prisoners, were bad or did something, they would take the pet away. They would take the cat away.
Yeah.
And they found, and people were saying, oh, these prisoners were going to mistreat the cats and stuff. And they're like, they found that they didn't. They actually were much kinder to the animal. And so there was a connection that, like, it's like, veterans with rescue animal, like dogs and stuff like that, and sort of like that helps them heal and sort of like work through their processes when they have to look after something. I had the same thing when I was looking after, like, caterpillars for my monarchs, and I talked about that the other week. Because when you're taking care of something, you kind of like go, well, what, it softens you a bit, it takes away the half edges of you. And I think having stories like this, and can at the time you can go, oh, you're just trying to build on the cruelty of it. No, you're actually trying to you're trying to actually get people to actually emote, connect with what the characters are.
It's part of it. It helps you to understand the characters' relation to each other. I mean, it's everybody kind of has some sort of relationship like that somewhere in their life. And it's just another thing it lets you know what they are together. It lets you know that it's a little different than just that. I mean, if you open up the book and that's all you see about that character,
it's like just gore and everything. But
so it's not, and you'll see. I mean, that same character through half the book is just like a cat rolling around on the floor, or just even, opening page, it's resting on her, chest. And so it's, and you find out with all the crowd and everything. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All the crowd and everything else that, and all the people and all the humanity, she's still kind of just alone, except for, her buddy. And Ruthless, I think, kind of, feels the same way. And so that's kind of the two of them are against all of it. And they certainly get plenty thrown at each other. That's for sure. So they're stuck in it pretty much from the first book all the way through, and not too much rest for those two.
And I think, you kind of, as much as we like science fiction and fantasy,
sure,
we want that emotional connection to the work. And like, I did a little thing the other day. I think it was Monday or something. Monday for me, but Sunday for everybody, in the Northern Hemisphere. And I'd watched a 4.5 hour movie, 2 parts. So it was 2 hours and 2.5 hours. And and this is animation, and I was choking back, and tears, and I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Because the first part was like just, these 2 kids, 2 brothers trying to help their sister. That was what it was called, right? It's called Recycle of the Penguin Drum, right? And I'll put that clip up later on sometime this week. But I couldn't breathe, man. I was like, I couldn't breathe. I was like, and I'm like, I've been holding back tears all through it, and I'm like, and then like I got to a point where I couldn't breathe, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna
let it go, man.
Yeah, like it's like it was choking me up, and I was like, freaking air got stuck in the lungs, whatever, but this is animation, right? And this journey of like just watching these kids like try their darndest to save their sister, right? But then you realize there's more to it.
Sure.
And I don't want to spoil it because it's such a great story, but this how all these kids came together, right? And you kind of want that every now and then, not all the time, because I think if you have that all the time, you get a bit jaded. You think the world's cruel, there's only bad things happening. And I think that's why you need to have all different types of stories and all different types of comics coming across different age groups and so on, and different subjects. Like you're talking about here, right? Like right at the start. Is this the first page of that? Or is it like the second page?
No,
so you got this,
that's the opening page,
Yeah, so this happens every time she gets off the halcyon. A spiral of depression, melee, suicidal ideation, right?
Yeah, that's how you get to see how her day starts.
Yeah, and so this is how my day used to start for about 3 years, where I just, I had a failed business, or not failed business. I had to close it down before it failed.
Sure.
And then I went into deep depression, and this is basically, I'm like, okay, so that's what it was like. It was like, I wish I was still sleeping. Why do I have to wake up? Oh, I got to eat. All right, better have a shower. And a couple of days I wouldn't have a shower. I just like go eat, cook food, and go back to sleep. And that was it, because you get in the situation where like,
it's not a good place. I mean, it sets it up right there. It's just not her. It's kind of the way everything feels. Nobody seems happy in this book. I got to tell you, there's a lot going on, and that's part of the story. It's a huge part of the story, and a big part of the problem that's being solved as well. So, it's there, and I think Bertrand does a really good job. It was a book, when I got it. I was drawing illustrations for the interior of the book for him. So,
okay,
you'll see a lot of the narration will be, lines right from the book,
right?
And it's taken that way to try to have his writing style prevalent through the whole story. I mean, I know it looks like a narration. It's kind of really just throwing it back to his book. So you're reading parts of the book, and I'm putting it together. Like I probably wrote 75% of the dialogue, but
Right.
and then we did the scripting together from the book. He would write me a synopsis, and then I would panel it out. And if he had any issue with it, we would make changes. We worked together pretty effortlessly. I mean, through the project, it really was very little difficulties. I don't think there was anything he ever asked me to redraw. I made personal decisions going back on things to make corrections and do stuff as far as that goes. And but a lot of his writing, to me, when I was reading it, it felt a lot like the old beat writers of America. Or if you get into some weird like Burroughs stuff like Naked Lunch, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it had a very it had a very the theme about it and the cadence about it. It set that environment up in my head that we ended up seeing. So it was always really fun for me to illustrate it and do that. He didn't really tell me what the world looked like then. He gave me, control of that, and I got to do what I wanted, or what fashion would be, or because there's actually a lot of fashion trends and things in the book that I look at people, and there's crowd scenes that have people dressed in that way. I mean, like any good movie costumer would do. You're setting that too. So that was a lot of fun with the book. She has a lot of crazy hairdos. I mean, throughout the whole book. So the character's never the same every day. You see her look different ways throughout the story. She's always got her her big jacket and her kind of like little glove things that are
it's very punk, right?
Yeah,
it's really and it reminds me of a local artist who's passed away a while back, called Martin Edmund, right? I always get his name wrong.
Did some of my favorite acrylic work, Edward Ramey, and he did White Trash. And I love that series, and I have it in my bedroom right now, actually. There it is. Love them. Absolutely love them.
And it's when I saw it, I was like, this kind of makes it feel, but it's totally different, right? And it's not no two artists are the same. And so when you come back here,
absolutely no.
One
of my favorite series. Absolutely love it. Yep.
And it's probably one of the most beloved of our artists, comic artists.
Sure.
For the short time that he was alive, to what he was able to do, because he was such a good at it. And this is what I think, because right now we have so many creatives, right? And it's so easy to get out there because of social media and stuff. This is when he was around, there was no such thing as social media, and you were posting stuff away. You're putting it into an envelope and you're hoping it never gets lost, sort of thing. And the creative between the two of you guys, I think there is this where are we? And a lot of people probably know from Lobo, not from White Trash, but it's kind of like, feels like you guys are out there on the edge of your art styles, and not because the art that you're doing here is so different, right? Creatively amazing, and it's so fresh in the sense, like, it's not been done by that many people. And the idea, and I've also in my head, I'm thinking, I need to get you in touch with another writer, because who's also doing sci-fi, which I imagine you'd work great with on a book. If it's because of what you're saying, like you're a person who would work great with novelists, right? Because you're able to create what is on that black and white in a novel form into what it can be in as a comic form. Whereas, like, I'm like the guy who goes script. Right?
It's a different approach. But it's I've actually seen some examples of that other people do too. And it's fun. I mean, I like doing it. Like, again, I'm a fan of the medium. I like doing it to watch how it happens. I mean, even though I'm doing it, you get to kind of watch how it happens. It's fun to see it come alive. It's never quite what you expected it to be. So even though you're doing it, it's coming alive in front of you. I guess it's hard to explain to a lot of other people, but I'm sure every creator that does it feels that way about it. It's in your head, but then it gets on paper and it takes a different thing. I think animation is your step beyond that. Now they're moving and talking, and it's like, my goodness, now they're alive. But it's, to get them to this. I mean, even the here's like, I didn't know what the outside of the cafe around back looked like, or what Schmidtick over there throwing out an oi, by the way. So, or what Schmidtick actually looked like before I drew him for the first time there. So, it's fun that it gets to happen and be exciting, to you while you're creating it too. So that's
part of the great thing about it, right? It's like the melding of two creative people. You got the guy who's writing it and you got the guy who's doing the artwork. And I think the best moments of creativity comes when you trust each other. I think we just go, okay, he's the artist, I'm the writer. Let's, let him do what he's doing. And then if there's anything I need to change, that's when I'll come and change. Or no, but I think at when a person you're working with at their level, you kind of go, I can trust that to take its thing, and because that in the end, they're also are trying to bring their A game to the table because they're also believing in the work. Otherwise, why would they do it, right? And I think when you let people who aren't doing it for the money, and I don't mean that in a derogative way, because everybody's doing that, but I mean like when people aren't just phoning it in, you get such beautiful work. And I think you can see that here, right? Or every little part of this panel is used to share something, And I think, you got the lights in the background here, like just behind Smitic, right? Just popping up there. And that's like, like a meter or something, right? Is that what that is? Or like a power meter?
Oh, you tell me, man. I get, it's just stuff everywhere.
And, and then you've got like, you got like the key code on just by that head there. And then even she's got earrings, right? Like that. And then you got stuff on the bottom here. It's like, you're really using up the panel to deliver really cool stuff. And it reminds me of the Spanish artist that I'm working with now. No, not that anybody, different from my other artists, but it's just like, because I just take hands off on certain things. And with certain people, the way I write the books are different, right? Each book has to be different and treated differently because each book is a different story. So you can't treat each one as the same. Because when you do that, you're actually going to ruin what the end product, I think, because each artist on it is different. And and it's like one artist I just go, whatever you send me, I'm good with it. And somebody, and most of the time it's like that with everybody. It's only every now and then I got to go and fix something because, hey, I got to do the freaking logos on their chest because I want it to look a certain way. That's about it. But I think, working with artists has taught me a lot over the last 4 years that I've been working. Like, that you can't be a what is it called? You know how they said too many cooks ruin the soup? You can't be that the director of it. Sorry, not the director, but the executive producer of it thing. Right. And that's why we see everything in Hollywood now.
Creative dictator.
Yeah, and I think when you let the when you let the director, who's the artist at this point, right? Because the artist becomes a director, the writer is the writer, and so the director is going, okay, so I'm going to take what you've written and I'm going to put it onto paper, and I'm going to draw it like this. But then the studio comes in, and it goes, oh, you know what? This might work better. It's like, well, we're working here.
The more people,
we're working here.
And the more people, I think a lot of that is why when you get creative teams that are really comfortable together, they can be together for a long time. I mean, because it's they feed each other too, and the work actually gets done,
Yeah.
which is part of the industry. A lot of people, don't know, is you throw a lot of time into even just getting a single comic put together. It's by the time it's all said and done, you need somebody to motivate you through stuff a lot of times, and feeding it back and forth to each other, and getting appreciation as opposed to just editorial talk. It helps you get through it too, because sometimes it's a grind. It's a grind to get that page out, or to stay on it too. Even though you love doing it, it's time in your life, and you're not always feeling good. You're not always ready to go. You're not always doing that, but it's there. I tell you, it's and again, when you actually get something finished and you know that that's going to be there, and then it's going to be something and be real. That's a big part too. It's a big reward, and it becomes addictive almost. I mean, to a certain extent.
Let's see if I've got any other pages. I just want to share. I think. Or did I just download
got
1, 2, 3?
Maybe about. I know I didn't send a whole bunch over to you.
Yeah, because we don't want to ruin. Yeah, we don't want to ruin.
Up and see them all.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm loving every page of this, every panel of this. I love the fact.
Well, that's that's. I would love to hear that. Love to hear that, because it's.
I'm just thinking, because you've got words as well. Like, you got these large words everywhere as well, and I'm looking at this you got the sound and stuff. And a lot of times now people go, well, what do you really need the sound? And because you already know what the action is like. But I think I love the sound.
It's in my head when I'm drawing it.
Yeah.
And so I just put it out there, and
and it's very punk, and I love the fact that, I don't mean people go, oh, it's punk because it's drug. No, I mean it's punk because it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I got you.
It's got that real Ruthless feel to to my team.
You said Ruthless.
When I was when I had my friggin' my denim jacket with no sleeves pulled off, when I had my Motorhead, when I had my Motorhead, the pig horn, logo on the back, on the patch, and I had my studs over here, and I'm walking around my ripped up jeans with, patches on. That's what I feel like with this. Like,
that's absolutely how you should feel. Yeah.
And it feels that joyous moment of just, I don't care.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't care what you think what I look like. I'm a good person.
I think that that is great. I mean, that's exactly how I want you to feel when you're looking at it. I want you to feel that way. I want you to feel tough and ready to go, and maybe a little not fearless, and and then just realizing that it's a mess everywhere. And setting it up that it's a mess everywhere. All this is going on, and there's no police running up. There's that's also part of it too. You're here. You're in this. This is where you're living. Nobody's running up to take care of you. Nobody's there. It even gets into that later. The police are where the rich people are. There's nobody taking care of the masses anymore. It may be the future,
so you got the elites. You can basically kind of like now, right, where the elites are protected by the friggin' with the police and law, but the poor people are left to fend for themselves.
Right, and then it just goes 100-fold, 1,000-fold worse. It just keeps escalating forever and ever until you just have this where you're just on top of each other, and you're fending for your own little spot. You're trying to find somebody to help you through it, or just to make it to the next day. And I very much want that feel. I mean, in the book, it's like that. You even look at it, all these little scratchy lines and everything. And it's not, even though it's future stuff, it's left very primitive. I mean, but I think you can, it's always there. And then, I always have some panels where I turn it on, you throw extra work into it. You're cleaning it up. It's not that I don't want you to, have that or make the art go that way. It's just that I think that's expressive enough. I mean, you got sketchy guys in the background.
That's what I was going
They're
to point
just
out. I've
lingering
got
back there. But
I've got my mouse. Yeah, I've got my mouse pointer on the sketchy guys. I'm just waiting for finish because I was like,
those dudes are
I
there.
got to talk about those guys.
You can see they're just standing there. That guy just had his hand lopped off. It's another, Monty Python
watching.
bloody mess. And but the general disinterest is like, as long as I make it home, it's okay.
Yeah, this is a question that I was actually thinking earlier on, and this is thinking nugget for this. Do you draw a lot of roughs first or go straight in with ink?
I almost and because it is Photoshop and it's digital, it's almost just I just go. I just start going. I block it in. I usually I use a lot of dark, a lot of black, as you can see, and a lot of times it'll be essentially a big black silhouettes because I'm trying to get the outline. Like he says, he does some animation. He understands the importance of understanding what the character is just by looking at a silhouette, almost. And you can see even like the process of Ruthless jumping through the air there. That was almost all black.
Yeah.
When I started, and I just started putting on top of it,
I get you now. I was trying to figure out what do you mean by shadows, but like you're just like filling out that.
Yeah, you can see how his feet just go to black as one,
and then layering on top.
Dark. Yeah, and I add the detail on that. Pick a light source. Figure out how far up that needs to go to make it work. And it's and then you got a more defined Ruthless down below, and you get a close up and stuff. And there's some panels you go real gung ho on, and other stuff it works good, just how it is. So that's it. You can even see down at the bottom. You can see the psst, that's him steaming off after he's done with all of his killing and everything else. And those are, I mean, I think almost nobody sees that stuff, but I like doing it because I'm doing it, and
but the other side of that is that the other side of that is like a lot of people like this is like if you're buying a book like this, you're always going to go back to it, right? And I think if you're buying art, right, when comics become art, it's this. Yeah, and it's like when you're buying heavy metal magazine in the old days.
You bet
that was art. You weren't buying it just to go, okay, read once, put it over there, and that's forgotten forever. No, you actually go back to it every now and then going, did I miss anything? Let's have another read. That's like when Tolkien, right? I know people who read Tolkien every year. I've got my dad said he's got a mate who does it every year, right? Every year, reads Tolkien every year and gets something else out of it, each time. And but I've never been like that, and but the books where I'll just go back after a couple of while and a bit and I'll go, oh man, I'm going to read that again and so on. But I think because we're so glutton for so many amazing things now, we just one and done. And like for me, I don't buy mainstream comics anymore, apart from just buying it for the art on the cover. I'll buy a foil cover or I'll buy a specific cover where there's hardly any writing on it, and I'll buy it, of the characters I love, like Batman family and stuff like that, or I'll buy some some comic I want to laugh at, right? The one where they had this recently, right? They had the death of Miss Marvel. I was like, I want to laugh at that. That's why the reason I bought that, because I wanted to laugh at that, because I what a useless book, and I want to show it up and go, look, I bought a useless book to laugh at. Because there's so much more great stuff out there like this, and you can, just while I'm on that, you can pick it up, from risingpublishing.com, right? That's the link there you can get to. And but I'm enjoying this because it reminds me of Martin, and for us Kiwis, he's a beloved character, creator from our thing, and I'm enjoying this because it's so fresh. It's not your what you're going to have on your mainstream, right?
Yeah,
but it's got this beautiful, and I love sci-fi. I adore sci-fi. It's my first love, and I think the fact that it's such a cool cool setup, everything here, is I mean, it's almost feels like Hellboy, right? From that, that guy in the fish tank, whatever.
Oh yeah, no,
You know,
another huge
you know,
influence is Mike
yeah,
Sword, especially the use of black,
yeah,
and letting shadow do a lot.
yeah,
Love both those
like
books. So yeah, you called me
yeah,
out on two of my favorite creators.
yeah. And I think, I mean, look, I mean, any writer who's worth his salt or any artist who's worth their salt has inspirations from other artists and
You
creatives,
bet.
because we're all learning. And this is, if you're not learning, you're going stale. And I think, like you said about the darkness and shadows here, just look at that, underneath the trike there, that motorbike, you just see that darkness there with the shadows, and then you come up, it's more shadows. But the work here, the light work, right? Coming onto this trike from the front, kind of like from the top, and you can see little. It's beautiful. That's what I was saying. Like it needs to have
Thanks, man.
needs to have a poster, kind of thing,
All right.
because it's just so cool. Like you can like build on that and add more to the to the top or whatever. But I'm like I said, like I'm all about the visual element, and I think having that the eye, the hand coordination, because I don't do illustrations myself anymore. But I do love what when I see people's work. I'm enjoying this, and I think this is if you're buying a comic book, right? If a panel sticks out like that, it's worth just for the buying for the friggin' panel, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because it's it's got this punk meets Blade Runner basically for me. I think
I
it's
think
just
I think that's a good analogy. Sure.
yeah, it's just got this richness to it, and you've got the Blade Runner thing at the top with the with the helmet and all that, and that's cool. And like I want to know who this creepy person looks like, because that smile there is not very or that grin is not very nice,
Right.
because it could go either way, that she's smiling because she's happy, or she's smiling because she's got something cooking. So in the last 15 minutes, anybody watching, you guys got any more questions? And then we'll set it out to share some of links where you guys can see Joe's work and so on. But Joe, do you want to talk about where they can find you? I had a look on Facebook for the new garage, like Brave New Garage. I couldn't find it. So can you share the link with me, please, in private? Just check it in the private chat on the left-hand side here. Oh, right-hand side, sorry. Because I can't. Oh, yeah, I just can't see it. I did it. Yeah, I did the Brave New search with the. I'm not sure. Is it under group or is it just under like?
I think just if you type it all in as one word, it is a Facebook. It's the home studio.
Maybe I'm just not doing it right. Let me just check. Word.
Should get you there. Let me see.
No, it's just popping up other weird stuff. Hold on. People. Nope. All. Nope. Posts. Pages. Oh, here we go. Found it. It's Brave New Garage Studio.
Sure. There you go.
You missed me out on the studio. So here we go.
That's all right. Yeah, I threw an extra in there. There you go.
Yeah. All right. So I found it.
Yeah, that'll get you there. That just shows you all kinds of stuff I do. I mean, all the way to some miniature painting and miniature wargaming. I don't know if you're familiar with the Games Workshop, but certainly neck of the woods. But I've been involved with doing that and painting armies and stuff for people for years. So that'll float around. It's got quite a few of just my painted work is there, and some other projects that I've been involved with over the time. So definitely stuff you can float through, and some animation is there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. It's great.
Yeah, I've been at it for a little while.
You got a new like.
There you go.
So
Air Lord there. I just finished that up, a comic with somebody.
That's brilliant.
With some steampunk kind of work there.
Yeah.
And that's I think down a couple pages is actually the animation Ruthless. Just a little some t-shirt work, like I was saying, t-shirt work that I do. So cover work that's for Air Lord.
That's awesome. Kind of remember the little bit at the top there on the helmet reminds me of Rocket Man.
Of
Rocketeer.
course, yeah, absolutely of the air. That was
There you go.
a early sketch of Lexa and Ruthless. Really early, getting the characters figured out a little bit.
Yeah.
from a
Hopefully,
while
this
back.
are you going to add this into the books?
Maybe at the back, I'll put in sketch work and early
Yeah.
character design and stuff. It's, like I said, it's kind of sitting here at Brave New Garage, so you can hunt down that stuff that's there before there was Patreon. I mean, you could stuff some more illustration style work, some Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. Done plenty of that over the years too. Some classic D&D monster guys. Book covers.
Zombiesaurus.
Yeah, Zombiesaurus. Absolutely.
This is cool.
Some black and white work.
Yeah.
Just all kinds of
Grindhouse.
stuff. More comic book. That was just a one-off with somebody.
It's awesome.
Yeah, there's
Teenage Wasteland. This is the band, isn't it?
That is that's the name of that cover. I'm sure there's a band there somewhere. I've got an actual black and white punk comic somewhere on there that's that we end up. That's some work actually I was working on with a young writer that I met at Rising Sun, and we kind of went different ways on what the story was going to be and how but that's some of the work that actually got me involved with Rising Sun. First meeting them. I think I got the black and whites next to that too. Yeah, so you see my color in the black and white, which is kind of fun to look around.
It's a real cool, great transition when you just look at that and you go, that,
Yeah.
And it just shows you like, okay, this is the first way you did it, because like, what Nugget was saying before, you just go right into it, or do you not? And then here's you going right into it.
Yeah.
And then you layer in the colors on top, toning it up. It's just so good. Of course,
girls, they show up.
And a pinup work.
Some pinup work. Yeah. Just some commercial work for, glamping business. All different stuff that comes out of the studio, and that's illustration, just some illustration stuff.
Yeah,
but it'll keep you busy. Sci-fi, some comic book work. There's some sketch work from. Actually, I was the Teenage Wasteland book. It little bit of punk meets Cthulhu sort of thing was going on in that one.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, like seeing all the different processes, like, I mean, kind of wondering if I should get you to do colors on another book that we've got coming up.
Well, you know how to get a hold of me. Feel free.
Because like I'm struggling at the moment to.
I think
Valvez, BTW, what's up, dude? I'm like, there is a book that I'm like wondering if I should just put out black and white because it's just great black and white, or if I should do spot color, and or whether or not, because like, I don't know, sometimes you just don't know what to do when you're putting stuff out here, because you can, like, color sells, right? And people, everybody knows that if it's a color book, it's going to sell more than a black and white book. However, Conan the Barbarian sold lots of comic books, right?
Sure.
Because of that, just Barry Windsor Smith, and who was the other? Was it Windsor Smith? There was an artist on it, or was it he's a writer? Gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to look good black and white. The book's got to look good black and white, in my opinion. Yeah. Even if you're overpaint everything, like some of that work is painted work. It's not standard comic work, but always the composition, has to start out. I mean, you have to have your black and white put together, and there's some punk pages there, and
I was just
like there you go. I mean, with the complete old school punk look, and that's a band called Murphy's Law, and they're and they got to see the book and everything and enjoyed it. They were very nice folks about all of that. But yeah, but all kinds of, I mean, it's a black and white book. It's got to get the job done. You can't just rely on color to cheat your way through things.
That's it. And I think a lot of times, like, people use color to cheat. But when you have have a creative person who actually does the work really well, black and white works, pops. And it's like, you can't really miss it.
I think it needs to, and it helps you understand, how to draw the eye to the point of reference and, things of that nature. Now, I love color and stuff. There's some older stuff that's actually all hand painted acrylic work, back before there was the computer. That's, how we had to do it, So that was your brush and your paint, and that's at your your increased comic size. And I think I got that whole short stories there. It's not it's not worded or anything, but it works as you go through. That was actually the wording of it. You found out it was the alien talking in that, all through that story and all. And that's just that's a painting that's hanging in my kitchen now. Yeah.
So you were talking about like painting, let me just check it. Warhammer. So Warhammer is something I've just gotten into, like watching, and the gameplays and stuff like that. It's I guess it's a fandom that I want to get into, and I've asked some people to come and talk about it with me, about what the game's about. But I've done my enough of like looking into it because of YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. With people talking about the history and stuff. But my first introduction to Warhammer was a 40K movie, right? The animated movie.
Yeah.
But then again, last year I decided to get into it because Henry Cavill was going to be taking over, doing a TV series. And I was like, oh man, this is the best time to get into it. But on top of that, it's like they have Lego, non-Lego Lego, right? Bricks for it. Right. And I'm a Lego fan. So I'm like, minifigures of Lego. And I'm like, this is a good way to get into the toys without, buying the big, huge, friggin' $20 bits, you know. And so I think there is such, it's an expensive thing, right? Getting into
it can be, it can be.
When you're paying $20 for a little figure for New Zealand, I'm talking about here, or $30 depending what it is. And now it's only just plastic again, right? Before it just be like pewter and stuff, and now it's just plastic, but they're still charging the same amount. I don't understand that, why they would do that. But I think it's growing, and I just love the you're talking about like the animation side of things. One thing that's really great about let me just grab this, get that away from there. Was it? Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Give me 1 second. I'll come up with the name. So there's an animated series, right? There's a couple of animated series from where are we?
Oh yeah. Games Workshop has their own channel and their own stuff.
And they've got a website, and they've got like YouTube, movies of the series they're working on. So there's Angels of Death, right? So there's an Angels of Death animated series, which is amazing. I'm finding it really, it's one of those things you got to watch slowly, and a bit at a time, because there's so much going on. And there's another one that's called, where are we? It's not that one. Hammer and Bolter, right? So there's two.
That's a bunch of different shorts that they put together, and different folks have put together. Yeah, and there's tons of other stuff out there, even non-creator not made by Games Workshop. It's really incredible work. It's a lot of fun, and it's a tabletop game. On top of that, it's been around forever, and it's you get your buddies together and hang out at the game store, which is, in the States, I don't know how it is there. The game store is the comic store too, So it's the whole community is there, and that's where all that came from, And then because I am a painter, I do paint. It's not, this is right from the company as far as the sculpting. And there's my work table, there's a little bit of me, the hands at work, and that's our Games Workshop army. I've been painting them for people for ages, a little more black and white to there. But yeah, starting to get the paint on them. But yeah, it's a great hobby. Yeah, and like you said, Henry Cavill's coming in. It'll be out there. Maybe we can get some live action movies and stuff done. But it's been a hobby of mine for ages, and lots of other people too. And even just the miniature making and 3D printing is such a thing now, and you can get your own sculpts put together, and it's and like I say, on top of all that, it's fun, and people go nuts. They have their own armies and they're painted up.
Yeah,
it becomes a big matter of pride for them. So, yeah. So if you're looking for another hobby or some way to slap paint around, that's a good thing to go to.
I mean, especially there's if you're into art.
Sure.
You're not going to stick to the one thing. There is no purism when there's
I'm all over the place.
And I think you get more rounded if you're in different fandoms, because you get to enjoy a lot of different things. Like I said, I'm into heavy metal, and I love music, but I also love manga. I love anime. I love comics. I love collecting toys. And I don't play tabletop games myself. I mean, sorry, tabletop board games I do own a lot of, and I'm creating one, but I don't play trading card games, but I do collect them every now and then. I'll go and buy a booster, or buy packs, starter packs and stuff, because I just want to have something there, because it's art, and you want to have some creative stuff there around you and stuff. And because sometimes you don't know, you might end up doing a trading card game someday, because, there is comics isn't the be all and end of all what we do. It's just it's what we love, and out of there will flow a whole lot of other stuff. So I want to show this little video here about animation stuff. Right? So
this is Captain Salkin of the Blood Angels.
Talking about the dark,
Sword of Baal.
Oh yeah, well yeah, this one's cool because they just kept it real stylized, and they threw the red in there, which is if you know the history of all that, it takes on a different relevance. But it's a super rich universe they've made. It's been around for decades now, and it's you got all kinds of cool stuff out there.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's
just a work of light. Because you realize that Warhammer is a very dark show. I mean, universe, No,
that's the whole thing. It's in the grim dark future. It's they even refer to that as a style for the whole universe, grim dark. Because it is. There's nothing good happening there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's beautiful stuff. It's a great hobby. You should do that. You should make comic books. You should do podcasts. Buy toys.
Yeah.
Don't forget to go out in the world and look around every once in a while too. There's still stuff going on out there that's worth seeing.
And that's a problem when people don't go out and don't get into other things.
Yeah.
Where they just look they stick to the one thing, and they become purists of that one thing. And sadly, that kind of gets you stuck in a little cultist mindset. It's like, this is this is it, kind of thing. But I think when when you get to enjoy a lot of different things, you become more rounded, and you become more grounded, and you get to enjoy a lot more stuff. So let me just see if we're popping that up here. I'll show you. I want to, just in finishing, have a look at this. Where are we? So this is Hammer and Bolter, since we're all talking about 40K, but animation, right? So this is the anthology. And so you're looking at different styles of animation here, because they come from different creatives. And it's just
Yeah, this is, he was talking a lot earlier about not getting into animation all that much. We're running out of time and wrapping it up, but you can see a lot of 8 frames per second in that animation.
I didn't realize how short that
and
was.
The importance of how to make that work. I think that's a good series for that. A lot of people say it's short or choppy, and they wish they, had paid for more. But if you're a guy just making your own stuff, I think it's a really good series to look at and see how they're actually breaking that up and timing things. And I definitely tell them, go take a peek at that. You'll see some pretty good moves, some nice tricks, and a fun universe.
And there is I really love Angel of Death, like this Angels of Death series. I think, and that's what I mean. Like, so I've watched about 4 episodes, and I'm like, I need to stop and just appreciate it. Like, right, really give a thought process to it, and like, because this Hammer and Bolter really brings out all the different elements of the animation medium, right? You can have like the manga kind of the quick, shorter frames rates and stuff, and then you get into like the CGI and stuff, and that sort of like becomes such a great let me just pop out of there and get back to what we're on about. But then you can then you can have the really 3D animated CGI stuff from from the other series, Angel of Death, and you get to appreciate what's available out here, and I think not only do you learn about the universe because of the animations, but you also learn about the characters in that universe, about the game and the fandom behind it. And it's very it's a very costly game, but it's also the players in them, they want you to be a part of it. And I think that any fandoms that's true, that's sociable, that's all it's about. It's like, hey, join. The bigger we get, the better, and the easier, more players we get to play with. And I think that's a great thing about anybody with trading card boards, stuff like that. And but because from the great thing about this is they've gone from, like, for me, I think as a noob, right, they've gone from like a board game, tabletop board game, they've got their magazines, then they've gone to the the video games, right? And you get to see how it's played and stuff, and then they've gone into like more, went into the movies, so you got to see an animated movie of it, so you get a bit more into it. And so it's got like, they've basically allowed you to slowly, if you're new, get into it, learn more and more and more, rather than going, this is the world.
Oh yeah,
play or die.
No,
and
they created their whole universe around it. They're using everyone all over, and they've done comics too. They've done plenty of comics with it, and all kinds of writers. They use tons of different artists. So yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Like so many else out there. There's a lot of good stuff out there. You should, try it all if you can. How are you going to know if you like it or not? Yeah,
and I think it's gonna look really. It's already mainstream, right? But it's it's kind of one of those things where it's like a fandom that's not like blowing, right? Like the MCU and all that stuff, like Marvel and that. But I think with Henry Cavill taking, doing this TV series live action, because he brings the whole Henry Cavill, fandom with him, right. And so that's going to blow Warhammer, worldwide. Even people who never even thought about Warhammer, right, are going to be watching it because Henry Cavill's in it. And I think that is going to make hopefully, the cost go down, and more accessible price-wise, because when there's more people buying it, then there's a why is it so dear then?
Well, I'll tell you, that's been a question of that industry and that game, I think, since the beginning, and the grumbles of people that get into it too. But that's a part of it with everything. They're a company too, I guess, and they're so big. It's a very different thing, certainly from guys like us trying to do our thing. It's pretty unfathomable to us, but it's another hobby, and it's another thing that helps keep a lot of the counterculture stores open. It's a sellable product, so you know, whether you like it or not, it's out there, and
Yeah,
people
somebody's likes it, right?
open,
And,
right?
yeah, and if I can't afford it, somebody else can obviously afford it.
That's right. And
So
when they want to sell it, you can buy it from them for less.
yes, yeah. I actually I'll show you something. Hold on.
All right.
So can you, Joe? Can you carry on? Talk about the episode, please. I mean the issue, and I'll come back.
Oh, you got issue 1. That's where you're going to meet your characters. You'll find out the environment they're going to be in. Get to see our style of art and read the way the book's written, which is kind of fun, and a little different, put together a little different, and that'll get you ready to jump right into the story in issue 2.
Awesome, thank you for that. So the other week, I mean the other month or so, I was out. Right, this is my first 40K, and of course. So my first interaction with 40K was probably about 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who was a dentist, he was, this is my first year of marriage. And so I was working at Salvation Army. This is like 2002. Yeah. About 2002 as a assistant youth director. And I can't remember his name now. I think it might be David, but so he was a dentist, right? So he can afford to be buying 40K stuff, right? So he comes over and he wants to share his fandom with me, and he gives me the magazine. So what's called White Dwarf, right? So I actually have it here, and I've never let go of it because I want to make sure when he ever comes up, because it's here, mate. You know, I've looked after it. You know, all the 20 years I've had it with me, because he went over to England to work there and so on, and it was left at home. And so I've protected and looked after it ever since. But that was my first interaction with it. But I'm like, I'm not really going to be able to afford that, right? But the other week, well, the other month, I should say, it's earlier this month, couple of months back, I came across this at a, let me pop that up there. So let's get rid of that. Right, so I came across these 3 at a Red Cross.
Oh, right. Look at that.
So this is like, you know, my first actual pieces, and I almost sold it, right?
Yeah.
But the guy said, nah, you know, and then it pulled out of the deal. It was going to be, and I think it was going to be like $15 each for each pack, you know,
sure.
These. So each figure was going to be 15 or something like that. Said, you know, I'll give it for this much. And then, you know, in the end, he didn't. But now I'm like, yeah, I'm never going to sell this. This is like, you know, I actually have something from that fandom, right? From the series now. So yeah. I get to, you know, set it up, you know, on there's three figures.
Time to put your models together.
Yeah. And so, you know, I get to actually have something like that. But I'm not going to paint it, so I've got to find someone who actually paints it, and I know someone who paints it locally, and you know, and who's into this. And so I'll probably go, hey man, I'm going to put these things. Can you know, paint them for me so I can actually have them?
There you go.
This is probably the best time to get into 40K because, yeah, because then you know, because it's about to pop off, right? Like I said, with you know, with Warhammer, with the series being made, I think it's on hiatus because of the, you know, with the strikes and all. But like, you know, when the TV series starts, that fandom's going to blow up. And, you know, as with everything, you're going to have people who come in and put their own ideas. But I reckon if you're going to join 40K, you know, I guess the groups and stuff, just don't go in with their own ideas. Talk to the people, right, with any fandom, and ask them about it, and you know, be there willing to learn, because all these guys, you know, like any fandom, they've been around and been you know, been running the games and stuff for ages. That's their passion. They say, you know, they've spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on this stuff. So, you know, don't go messing with it, but you know, be there to learn.
No,
I mean,
your local
yeah,
store will help you. They'll be
yeah,
there. And do your thing. They'll show the comics to you too. Don't forget the comic book rack when you're there.
yeah. That's it. I mean, like, of course, you've got, and the other thing is like, so do go check out, as we finish here, go check out Rising Sun Publishing. Go check out, the book there, and let me just put this up. So there's a link for it. Rising Sun Publishing Group. 3 issues are out. How many issues are all up on this, Joe?
Bert's going to figure it out all, but I think that we're going to try to wrap the story up in 6 issues altogether. I love a story that ends, so that's the overall goal, and then maybe we'll put it all together as a graphic novel after it's said and done. But we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, like, at least when you do like a story that ends, like with maximum maybe 12 issues or whatever.
Sure.
But a person can save up or plan it, right? You can actually plan it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I can plan for this many issues and I'm good. And I think it's when, like, and the other thing about that is that there are no filler issues, right? That each issue has got something to say in it,
Sure.
and you're putting, you're restricted within a boundary of telling a story in those 6 issues. And so you're putting as much into it as possible. I think, like, when you're like got an ongoing thing, you can just go, oh yeah, I'll just find this one, and
right.
oh yeah, there'll be that, and there'll be that. It's like, no. When you got 6 issues, you're doing everything to make sure those 6 issues work and are sellable. And I think this is a great thing that I like about what with indie environment and community is creating right now, is that they're putting out such great work. So you're not only are you able to like look at Alexa and Ruthless, which I need to get my hand on, physical copies of. And I'm sure in due time I will. But like you've got other comics here as well. You've got Griffin there, stuff like this.
Yeah, take a look at everybody. If maybe that's not the genre you're looking for, maybe somebody else is out there making something, and it doesn't have a big corporate stamp on there. A lot of people make really a lot of nice, good work and nice stuff, and it doesn't all look the same. And maybe there's something out there you find you like that you didn't even know was there.
Yeah, why not pick up both, right? Like, I mean, it's just. So you've always, there's always so much more going on. And I think the idea here is that, like, listen, you don't have to be mainstream.
No,
right? You don't have to like forever be like, just because that it's there doesn't mean that's all you got, that's all that's there. You got so much cool stuff coming out.
Have some fun. And, go dig around in the internet attic, as it were, and see what you hunt down and find. I think that was always part of anything, was being part of a community, is kind of what it is a little bit more. That one independent comic book you go and buy, it means a lot to almost any independent comic book person out there making it. It's valuable to them to know that somebody's willing to pay them for their efforts. Yeah. Even if in modern day era, what is $6? We forget about $6, and if that's an hour of entertainment to you, it puts something on your shelf. If you're a creator, it's something you can look back to, you can refer to. I ended up picking up my greatest influences by flipping through old white boxes and pulling something out and being like, what is this? And I didn't know, and it could have been a 4-off. And, just like we were talking about with White Trash, to this day, I mean, some of the most influential work that I've ever seen or owned. And I have looked through those comics so many times, I couldn't even tell you. So, that's out there for you somewhere. It might not be at the local store. You might have to do a little work for it. And all the better for you if you do that.
Yeah. So in finishing, man, like, I mean, guys, check out Alexa and Ruthless on, Rising Sun Publishing Group.com, or just through Rising Sun Publishing, RisingSunComics.com. So this month, we're basically, getting invaded by Rising Sun Comics creatives. And so check amongst all that, we also have other interviews as well. But definitely, come and see us whenever you see the posts out, and please like and subscribe and share. But Joe, in finishing, do you have any words of wisdom or anything you want to say as the last 3 to 5 minutes?
If you make stuff, make it. Love making it. Make it because you love making it. Try to get with a group of people, especially if you're starting out. There's lots of groups of people starting out that you can bounce ideas off of. Don't be afraid to share your ideas. Don't be afraid of making bad art to make good art. It takes time, and try to have a good time with it. And thanks a lot, guys. And hey, if you need any work done, you can always get a hold of me at the studio, and we'll sort something out. And make sure you hit all those subscribes and likes for PlungeCast, because it's important that people are letting people know about all of us and support him too.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. And that's it from us here today. And tomorrow morning we have 2 o'clock in the morning with Argentina. For New Zealand, that is, right? So I got to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning for Argentina. And then again, around about midday or 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, I think, in the US. Tomorrow we'll have Milliverse guys, or the other way around. But I'll get the posts out on social media, so just follow it through. But if you'll get notifications if you hit that notify button on the video, and also you'll get it'll pop up in your homepage for YouTube if you hit the subscribe button. So there's more coming up throughout this month with specific creators from Rising Sun Publishing Group. And so check out that website and you'll be able to get some more independent creators. And there's also non-profit books from related to Joe and Mask and other stuff there, as well as in-house creatives as well. So thank you, Joe. I'll see you next time. And for everybody else, ka kite anō. Wherever you are, be well, be safe, and give your loved ones a hug. And in the last comments here, thanks, Joe. Keep doing it. And that's from Nugget here from New Zealand.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Thanks for stopping in.
Cool. All right, guys, catch ya. And thank you for you guys for watching. And share, like, and subscribe. Ka kite anō.